Hi guys and welcome back to the channel. Today I've got two replays in the M41B Brazilian Bulldog. Now this is an American tier 8 light tank that is a premium tank. It's a very old premium tank and this will be the first time it's up on the channel for me. It's a weird one because it's got a very goddamn good reload. The reload is superb. The gun handling is alright, but I mean 6.0 helps a lot with it compared to what it was pre 6.0. It just has, yeah, it's weird, because it's the old gun, or the old 90mm gun that used to be on the T49. And that is that it gets HE standard rounds, or HEP, really, 250 pen heat rounds, and then a standard HE round. Now, the first HE round that you can load in this tank is 102 pen. Then you've got the 250 heat pen, like I say, and then 45 pen standard HE. Now, there's actually only like 100 silver difference between the two rounds, between the two standard HE rounds, which means that you're never going to use the 45mm pen HE ever. Like, it's just never going to get used. It's kind of weird in that way that it even has that. The 102 HE pen is great for facing lightly armoured tanks like most light tanks, and you can absolutely butcher most light tanks as well, which is great. But it's useless against tanks that have armour. And it can be really frustrating to play in tier 9 and 10 games when you're facing tanks that even have not even that great on armour, but you just can't really do anything against them because you can't pen them with 102 pen. And that leads to you having to spank the premium rounds constantly, which means you lose quite a bit of money in this tank, especially if you miss a decent amount. If you pen a lot, then you're going to make money, but it's not going to be anywhere near what you're going to make in any other tank. To be honest, for me, this is the worst Bulldog because of this gun, and that you're going to lose a lot of money. And to be perfectly honest, this tank does exactly what the M41mm the M41 90mm does, or the Hurl and Hunt, which is the Halloween mode version. This tank does exactly the same as that, but the Hurl and Hunt, you're just going to be able to play that and make credits, whereas this you're not really going to be able to do too much. This is quick, this has a good engine power, it's not sluggish, it gets up to its 72km/h top speed really well, but this gun lets it down. And it's obviously not got the best camo as well because it's a Bulldog, but that is what it is. It's also got great view range, which is also a nice factor for a light tank. Obviously, it's got 410 meters view range, which is great. But yeah, I wish this gun had some sort of pen on the HE round. I kind of, in a way, wish it had about 170 pen or something like that. So therefore, you could actually use them, even when you're top tier, and make money, essentially. And not have to rely on spanking these heat rounds. You can just switch the heat rounds if you need to use them. It's not a bad light tank, and like I say, it's great for dueling other lightly armoured tanks. And you can definitely have good games because this reload is insane, but you're going to have to spank heat rounds. And if firing full premium or firing a hefty amount of premium isn't for you, then this tank isn't going to be for you. So in terms of a crew on the M41B Brazilian Bulldog, I run standard light tank crew. So Born Leader, Rapid Reload, Sixth Sense, Situational Awareness, Run and Gun, Steady Aim, Trap Mechanic, Camouflage Expertise, and Muffled Shot. The two camouflage perks so that obviously you can amp up your camo as much as possible when you fire, try not to get spotted as much. Help the gun out as much as possible as well with the Run and Gun because you fire a lot on the move, and Steady Aim to increase your accuracy by 10%. And then I run Trap Mechanic, which is something I've been dropping off of light tanks a little bit here and there, because it depends on the light tank. But the Bulldogs are fat, and they tend to take a lot of hits in the side. It's actually quite funny, because the amount of times I've been shot in this tank and other Bulldogs, not taking any damage because they've just hit my tracks, but then tracked me, happens a lot. And then obviously you're dead in the water from the moment they track you. You don't want that. In terms of equipment, I've been running Rammer, Camo Net, and Optics. Camo Net, obviously, like I say, because I'm a light tank, I want to have as good a camo as possible, so make the camo great. Rammer, because the DPM on this thing is phenomenal. Essentially, the reload is insane. If you can pen these HE rounds, you just obliterate people. So I want to make that as good as possible. And then Optics again to make my view range fantastic. So on this first game on Sand River, we've managed to accumulate 2.5k damage and 1400 assistance. We're just going after this little AMX-12T with our HEP rounds, and we shut that guy down. We did what I like to do, which is go to G6 at the start, and then not hang around. So basically went there, tried to spot everything going up north, and then as soon as they were up north, bugged out. Now, this is where this Bulldog is fantastic, right? That poor Batchat 12T didn't stand a chance. Obviously, if he catches me out of the clip, he's going to hurt me, right? But the fact he was really lightly armoured, I have the HEP rounds in, I could just eviscerate that poor guy. Now, this is why I say that the Hurlenhund or the M41 90mm will be better, or yeah, will generally be better in every situation than this tank, because the Brazilian Bulldog is more sluggish than this tank. Sorry, the Hurlenhund. It's more sluggish than this Brazilian Bulldog, so it gets up to that top speed a little bit slower, and it kind of struggles because of that. But the thing is, the gun is actually useful. As we finish this game, by the way, with that 3.5k damage and 1400 assistance, we come top with 5 kills, 3.5k, 1872 base XP. Again, ace tanker, a nice game for the Brazilian Bulldog. And we're top tier, which is basically where most of the time you're going to thrive in this tank. Obviously, you can not use the gun and you could try and go scouting, but the problem is with this tank is that, well, it's a problem with every light tank really, is that if you are going to rely on the fact that you can't shoot things and you're going to have to go scout, your team's actually going to have to do you a favour and shoot things, and that doesn't happen all that often. You want to be able to at least defend yourself, and there's a lot of situations where this tank can't defend itself just because the gun doesn't work properly, and you have to spank the heat rounds. And while you've got 250 heat pen, which is great, and you're going to be able to pen everything really with it, right? It's heat, and heat gets absorbed by space armor. And like I say, I always feel like the Hurlenhund or the M41 90mm is going to do the job of this tank far better, because, well, it reloads only slightly slower. Like, it's very slightly slower. It's only it's more sluggish on the move, but it gets up to its top speed anyway. It's got the same view range, and while this has 102 pen on its standard HEP rounds, the M41 90mm gets HEP rounds that are 102mm pen as well as having 182mm AP rounds and 250 heat pen rounds. That's why I say that this tank is kind of pointless alongside the M41 90mm. You can have fun with it, you can do some phenomenal damage with it against lightly armoured tanks, like I say, and it's a great scout tank like all the other Bulldogs, but the thing is, you can do what this tank can do with all the other Bulldogs. So you don't need this tank. That's why I say it would be nice if this tank had 170 pen on its HEP rounds, because then it'd have really good DPM on these HEP rounds, but they are HE, so you would have to hit the right spots to be able to do the damage. And obviously they'd have the same problem as heat rounds, where, you know, they hit spaced armor and you splash and you don't do anything. But at least you'd have some sort of uniqueness to you, which this tank doesn't have anymore. That's just my 2 cents, anyway, for this tank, and why it's never really been on the channel, and why I don't actually ever really play it. Because, yeah, you can just take the Hurlenhund out and just be able to be more effective in every other scenario. Or in every scenario, really. So we're on this second game, and we're on Fisherman's Bay. Now, I've taken the position at E67, which is where I'd kind of like to go, because you can spot people crossing into the town, and you can try and get shots into people as they cross over. And, well, you can just spot out, right, and get good assistance as well if you've got people shooting. Unfortunately, we've taken quite a few hits there. The AMX 13105 YOLO'd for no apparent reason, ended up losing his whole tank to do that. We then get hit by artillery, and we lose most of our hit points, because, you know, artillery hits the light tanks, not the tanks coming out of the town. And we're on, yeah, a slither of hit points. We're now at 1 shot for everything. But we're just going to try and make the most of this position if we can. Because, like I say, our team is pushing out the town, which is good for us. That means we can try and be a little bit more safer on this position, on this ridge, because they're going to be focused on the guys coming out of the town. And if I can spot the guys up here with me, or should I say, their enemy tanks on this ridge here with me, my team can shoot them and feed me assistance. I mean, we're at 2k damage already with 1,000 assistance, which is nice. And we come against this mouse, and it's like, hello, mouse. I've got 250 heat pen, which means with the side of his turret, sure, I can pen that, that's fine. As long as he keeps giving me the side of his turret. It's still only like a 50-50 to go through. As you can see, it's an orange pen marker, which means that we've he angles ever so slightly. We're not going through that, but it is a mouse. We managed to spot the Death Star at the back as we're poking at us like, absolutely not. I'm not taking that hit whatsoever. Nope, we're not doing that. But the Death Star's moving, so we're going to try and get some shots in. We try and shoot him in the side, but we end up hitting his tracks and doing no damage because spaced armor. And we've got to aim high. We've got to get the shots into the turret side to be able to do damage to this Death Star, because if we're shooting at his side armor, we're just going to keep getting the rounds absorbed. But fortunately, he's turned to faces, which means we get nice shots into his lower plate. And right now I'm concerned because I think that Leopard could possibly just poke over and shoot us. And to be honest, I'm quite surprised I'm getting away with what I'm doing. I would have thought someone would have YOLO'd me or just tried to poke over to shoot me and shut me down, because I'm a one-shot. But we're going to try and make the most of what we've got. Now, this Death Star is behind this cover. I go for the shot into his drive wheel again. If we had any other round that wasn't heat, we would have penned and tracked that guy, but it's heat, so we only tracked him. But he's looking at us, so I'm absolutely not. Trying to feather a shot the 704 to help my guys out. It just pulls out, but we can't, that little bit above there where I hit then on the 704 is actually spaced armor, so the heat can't pen it. So we end up getting the round absorbed by that guy's spaced armor, which is really annoying. That's why I hate heat rounds, because there's so many shots that don't pen that if you were firing any other round, even with like 20 or 30 pen lower, you probably would have penned. But just because spaced armor, absolutely not, right? It's very annoying. So we're trying to feather a shot at this Qilin. Unfortunately, heat round gets absorbed on his spaced armor on the side again. So we switch to HEP rounds because he's only got 7 HP left, which means that we can just splash him to death. As he pokes his ass out into the breeze, we managed to splash him to death and shut him down. We're up to 3k damage, 2.7k assistance so far. There's only 3 tanks left. The 261 gets spotted over there, which is actually quite surprising. Well, I say I'm quite surprising that I didn't get splashed to death actually when I was firing at the Death Star. I think the 261 was probably preoccupied with everything coming out of the town, which is rightly what he should have been doing. But there's only 1 tank left now, and there's a medium tank. We know where he is. He's somewhere in this corner. And there it is. It's a Skoda T50, full health. Now, this guy I could probably pen in the side or the rear with HEP, but I need the heat to guaranteed go through the guy. We have lit him up, though, so hopefully we get a little bit of assistance. We do get a bit there as he gets slapped up by artillery. He gets hit by someone else, and that gives us a bit more assistance, because you still get assistance tick over even if they get unspotted after a second or two after they've been hit. And then we poke round. It's like, hello, sir. Oh, no, I bounced my heat round. I should have aimed properly, but unfortunately we missed. Now, he fires there, and I think, oh, he's fired all 3 now. No, he hasn't. I don't know why I thought that. For some reason in my brain, when he got spotted the first time, I thought he'd fired. And when he fired the other, he fired 2 in my brain. So I was like, hey, he's fired all 3 now. I can go alone and get him. But unfortunately, we couldn't get him. We finished with 3k damage, 3.8k assistance, the ace tanker, 2k base XP in a tier 10 game, which is a really nice game for the Brazilian Bulldog. Like I say, tier 10 is where it most struggles because of the penetration. I hope one day that they'll buff the penetration on the standard HEP to give it something different to the other Bulldog variants, but who knows. For me, you're best just to get the Hurling Hund to have the same flavour of this tank, but more effective in every scenario. So as always, everybody, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.
A great success!